Elon Reeve Musk was born on June 28, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa. To the outside world, his family appeared successful and privileged. But behind closed doors, the reality was far more complicated. Wikipedia. His father, Elon Musk, was a South African electromechanical engineer, pilot, sailor, consultant, emerald dealer, and property developer. His mother, May Musk, was a Canadian-born model and dietitian who would later appear on the covers of Time magazine, Vogue, and Sports Illustrated. At one point during Elon's childhood, she worked 5 jobs at the same time just to support her family. Elon has a younger brother, Kimball, and a younger sister, Tosca. The family was wealthy by South African standards, living in a large home with servants, a typical lifestyle for wealthy white families under apartheid South Africa at the time. Wikipedia +2. But the wealth did not mean happiness. Elon's parents divorced in 1979. After the divorce, Elon, aged around 9, chose to live with his father because he had an Encyclopedia Britannica set and a computer. Elon later deeply regretted this decision and eventually became estranged from his father. The relationship with his father was painful. Elon Musk has been described by those close to him as an emotionally harsh and difficult man. Elon has said in interviews that his father was capable of making people feel terrible and stupid, a wound that never fully healed. Wikipedia. This was the world Elon Musk was born into, a wealthy but broken home, a complicated father, a hardworking mother, and a country living under one of the most brutal systems of racial oppression in the world. Young Elon was different from the very beginning. While other kids played outside, Elon disappeared into books. He read constantly, everything he could get his hands on. He was an enthusiastic reader and has attributed his success partly to having read The Lord of the Rings, the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the. And then came something remarkable. At age 12, Elon created a basic-based video game called Blaster and sold it to PC and Office Technology magazine for approximately $500. A 12-year-old child, in apartheid South Africa, selling a video game to a magazine. The entrepreneur was already there, already alive inside him. Wikipedia. But school was a nightmare. Elon was bullied relentlessly at school. On one occasion, he was beaten so badly that he had to be hospitalized. He was small, he was quiet, he was smarter than everyone around him, he talked about things other kids didn't understand, and he didn't know how to pretend otherwise. That combination made him a target. Vocal media. He was prone to bluntly correcting others when he thought they were wrong, a habit that, as a child, earned him the unwanted attention of school bullies. Site Builder Report. These were lonely, painful years. But they built something in Elon, a thick skin, a refusal to be defined by what others thought of him, and an absolute conviction that the world could be different from what it was. Musk applied for a Canadian passport through his Canadian-born mother to avoid South Africa's mandatory military service, which would have forced him to participate in enforcing the apartheid regime, and to ease his path to eventually reaching the United States. Wikipedia. At age 17, in 1988, Elon moved to Canada against his parents' wishes to attend university and to begin building a new life. He obtained his Canadian citizenship that year. Biography. He arrived in Canada with almost nothing, no job, no connections, no roadmap. He came to Canada with the belief that it would be easier to obtain U.S. citizenship via that path. I came to North America because I felt this was where there was opportunity to do great things in technology, he later said. Biography. He took odd jobs to survive, cleaning boilers at a lumber mill, shoveling grain at a farm, working wherever he could find work. This was not the. After graduating from Penn in 1997, Elon was accepted into the PhD program in energy physics at Stanford University, one of the most prestigious programs in the world. It was, by any measure, the safe and sensible path. A Stanford PhD in physics would have guaranteed him a stable, respected, well-paid career. He enrolled in graduate school in physics at Stanford University in California, but he left after only 2 days because he felt that the internet had much more potential to change society than work in physics. Britannica. 2 days. He walked into one of the most prestigious PhD programs in the world, looked around, thought about what was happening in the internet in 1995, and walked right back out. This was 1995, the year Netscape went public with a valuation of nearly $3 billion. The internet was exploding. The world was about to change forever. And Elon Musk was not going to sit in a laboratory studying physics while history was being made outside. He moved to Silicon Valley. He had a plan. When Zip2 launched, Musk only had $2,000 in the bank. He and his brother Kimball co-founded the company, a platform that provided maps and business directories to online newspapers. Site Builder Report. Elon coded the entire platform himself, sleeping on a beanbag in the office and showering at the local YMCA. He couldn't afford an apartment, so he lived at work. He couldn't afford a gym, so he used the public facilities down the street. This is the image that most people miss when they think of Elon Musk, a brilliant young man sleeping on a beanbag, showering at a public gym, building a company with $2,000 and a dream. Vocal Media. Their father, Errol, gave them $28,000 to help get the company going. It was a small amount to build a tech company with, but Elon made it work. Site Builder Report. He was brilliant but difficult. He was prone to micromanaging and bluntly criticizing his team. His lack of social delicacy definitely impacted his working relationships. But the PR. With his Zip2 money, Elon immediately launched his next venture. He co-founded X.com, an online payment company. The idea was radical and ahead of its time, sending money over the internet, the way you send an email. Wikipedia. X.com later merged with a payments company started by Max Levchin and Peter Thiel to form what would become PayPal. But the road was not smooth. Clashes with the board led to Elon being fired as CEO while he was on vacation. He had built the company, fought for it, poured himself into it, and was removed from his own creation while he was literally on a trip. Vocal Media. But the story had a profitable ending. When eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion, Elon walked away with $180 million. Now he had $180 million. Now, surely, it was time to relax. To buy a house, invest in bonds, live comfortably for the rest of his life. No. Elon Musk did something almost no one else in history has ever done. Instead of spending the money on luxury, he invested almost all of it into three wild ideas: SpaceX, Tesla, and Solar City, and nearly went bankrupt in the process. Elon Musk had a dream that most people thought was completely insane. He wanted to colonize Mars. He wanted to make humanity a multiplanetary species. He believed that if humanity stayed confined to Earth, it was only a matter of time before some disaster, a pandemic, an asteroid, a war, wiped us all out. He founded SpaceX in 2002 with the explicit goal of making space travel radically more affordable and ultimately enabling human settlement of Mars. New Mexico Museum of Space History. Everyone laughed. Space agencies had decades of experience. Governments spent hundreds of billions of dollars on space programs. Rockets required the most sophisticated engineering in human history. Who was this internet millionaire who thought he could build rockets? Elon did what he always did. He read every book he could find on rocket science. He hired the best engineers. His first 3 rocket launches failed spectacularly. Each explosion was not just money lost, it was Musk's reputation on the line. The rocket industry insiders shook their heads. They had predicted this. Of course a Silicon Valley guy couldn't build rockets. By 2008, SpaceX was on the verge of total collapse. Elon had invested $100 million of his own money into SpaceX, enough to fund exactly 3 rocket launches. When all 3 failed, the company was nearly finished. At the same time he was building SpaceX, Elon became heavily involved in Tesla Motors, a small electric car startup founded by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Musk had long been interested in the possibilities of electric cars, and in 2004 he became one of the major funders of Tesla Motors. In 2006, Tesla introduced its first car, the Roadster, which could travel 245 miles on a single charge. Unlike most previous electric vehicles, which Musk thought were stodgy and uninteresting, it was a sports car that could go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in less than 4 seconds. Britannica. Most people thought electric cars were a joke. Slow, ugly, impractical toys for people who wanted to feel good about themselves. The automobile industry had been built on gasoline for 100 years. No one was going to change that. But by 2008, Tesla was in as much trouble as SpaceX. The global financial crisis had hit. Car companies were going bankrupt. General Motors, one of the largest companies in the world, would file for bankruptcy the following year. Tesla, a tiny startup with no track record, was burning through cash at an alarming rate. The year 2008 was the closest Elon Musk ever came to total ruin. Both SpaceX and Tesla were dying at the same time. The global economy was in freefall. And Elon was running out of money. Musk later admitted he faced an impossible choice: either split the money between SpaceX and Tesla, or give it all to one and let the other die. He couldn't let either fail. He gave Tesla the last of his remaining cash from PayPal. He didn't even own a house or anything sellable at this point. Tesla's financing round closed at 6 p.m. on December 24, 2008, literally the last hour of the last day possible. If it had not closed that day, payroll would have bounced 2 days later. Startup Archive. Christmas Eve. The last possible hour. The money cleared with minutes to spare. And then, on the fourth attempt, SpaceX launched its Falcon 1 rocket successfully into orbit, the first privately funded company in history to successfully launch a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. NASA took notice and gave SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract. In a single year, 2008, Elon Musk went from the edge of total bankruptcy to securing NASA's biggest commercial launch contract in history. It was the most dramatic reversal of fortune in the history of Silicon Valley. With the company saved, Tesla began its extraordinary transformation of the global car industry. In 2010, Tesla's initial public offering raised about $226 million. 2 years later, Tesla introduced the Model S sedan, acclaimed by automotive critics for its performance and design. The company won further praise for its Model X luxury SUV, which went on the market in 2015. The Model 3, a less expensive vehicle, went into production in 2017 and became the best-selling electric car of all time. Britannica. Every major car manufacturer on the planet, Ford, GM, Toyota, Volkswagen, BMW, had laughed at or dismissed electric vehicles. Tesla proved them all wrong. Today, every single one of those companies has launched electric vehicle programs. The entire global automobile industry shifted because one man in 2008 refused to let his company die on Christmas Eve. Under Musk's leadership, SpaceX pioneered reusable rockets, arguing that full reusability was essential to making spaceflight as routine and affordable as air travel. New Mexico Museum of Space History. Before SpaceX, rockets were used once. SpaceX developed the Falcon 9, the Falcon Heavy, and eventually the Super Heavy Starship system, the most powerful rocket ever built. They landed rocket boosters back on their launch pads and on drone ships in the middle of the ocean, catching them vertically after returning from space. Something that experts said was essentially impossible became, under SpaceX, almost routine. SpaceX also developed the Dragon spacecraft, which carries supplies and astronauts to the International Space Station. The United States, which had been forced to pay Russia to carry its astronauts to space after the space shuttle was retired, could now launch its own astronauts from American soil again, on a private company's rocket. Elon Musk never stopped. Even as he ran SpaceX and Tesla simultaneously, each of which would be a full-time job for any normal person, he kept launching new ventures. At the end of 2017, Musk founded the Boring Company, which focuses on tunneling and infrastructure. He mentioned Los Angeles traffic as the reason for starting the company. He was sitting in traffic one day and decided to solve the problem. Wikipedia. In March 2017, Elon Musk announced Neuralink, a company aimed at developing technology to merge human brains with computers. The goal is to eventually allow paralyzed people to control computers with their thoughts, and in the far future, to potentially enhance human cognitive capabilities. Wikipedia. Then came the most controversial chapter of his recent story. Musk purchased the social media service Twitter in 2022 and renamed it X in 2023. He fired thousands of employees, restructured the entire company, and turned it into the center of global political controversy. Whatever one thinks of the decisions, the sheer audacity of buying one of the world's most important communications platforms and remaking it in the middle of everything else he was doing was staggering. And then came xAI, his artificial intelligence company, founded to compete with OpenAI, which he had co-founded and then left, and Google's AI programs. Musk has been the wealthiest person in the world since 2025. As of April 2026, Forbes estimates his net worth to be approximately $809 billion. His wealth is primarily derived from his ownership stakes in Tesla and SpaceX, with SpaceX's February 2026 merger with xAI creating a combined entity that contributed substantially to his overall valuation. But the number misses the point. Elon Musk's wealth is not stored in a bank account. It is tied up in companies that are actively trying to solve the biggest problems humanity faces. The wealth is the companies, and the companies are the mission. After reading this entire story, one question demands an answer. Why Elon Musk? What is it about this particular person, bullied child, lonely teenager, near-bankrupt entrepreneur, that produced something the world had never seen before. First principles thinking. Elon does not accept the way things are done as the way they must be done. He breaks every problem down to its fundamental physics and asks, what is actually possible? Not what has been done, not what the industry standard is. What is actually possible? This is why SpaceX could undercut the rocket industry by 90%. Everyone else was building on decades of existing practice. Elon started from the physics. Second, extreme personal risk. He poured his last $40 million into Tesla and SpaceX, risking his entire fortune when failure was the most likely outcome. Most entrepreneurs protect themselves. Elon goes all in, every time. The willingness to lose everything is what separates bold visions from timid ones. Third, relentless work ethic. He works 80 to 100 hours a week, splits his time between Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and X, and still sleeps on factory floors when needed. The man who is worth $800 billion still sleeps on. Fourth, mission over money. From the very beginning, Elon has said that money is not the goal. The goal is to ensure the survival and expansion of human civilization. Every company he has built is connected to that single, enormous mission. Tesla, sustainable energy. SpaceX, multiplanetary civilization. Neuralink, enhancing human intelligence. XAI, developing safe artificial intelligence. Fifth, surviving the worst. The story of 2008, nearly bankrupt, Christmas Eve, last possible hour, is not just a dramatic anecdote. It reveals something fundamental about Elon Musk's character. When everything was falling apart, when the rational choice would have been to cut his losses and walk away wealthy, he poured his last dollar in and refused to quit. As he himself has said, when something is important enough, you do it even if the odds are not in your favor. Elon Musk is not a simple figure. He is brilliant and controversial. He has transformed industries and provoked enormous debate. He has made enemies as readily as he has made history. But strip away the controversy, and the core story remains extraordinary. A boy who was beaten bloody in a South African schoolyard. A teenager who arrived in Canada with nothing. A young man who slept on a beanbag and showered at the YMCA to build his first company. A 37-year-old who poured his last dollar into two companies that were both about to die, and saved both of them. He did not inherit a technology empire. He built it, piece by piece, with his own mind, his own money, and his own refusal to accept failure as anything other than information about what to try next. Today, Elon Musk is the wealthiest person in the world, with an estimated net worth of $809 billion. He leads the most advanced private rocket company in